We have to work on the shame and the self-blame. We have to bring self-compassion into that process. We also have to work on how to create a sense of safety again, because trauma is a complete stripping away of people's sense of safety. Whatever the trauma is, could be a car accident, it could be sexual assault, whatever it is. And it's a complete, someone has come and just taken away any semblance of control.
Hmm.
So finding ways to rebuild that sense of control in people's own bodies and in their environment. That's really, really important.
Hey, this is Jonathan Marx with GoToHealth. Welcome back to another show. This one is a tough topic, but it's something we do have to talk about because it happens way too frequently, and that is sexual assault. The question is, how do people survive? How do people recover? And how can their friends and family best help them through their recovery? In this show, we're going to talk about understanding the aftermath, how participants can gain insights into emotional and psychological impacts of sexual assault. We'll also talk about tools for self-advocacy, how people can receive actionable tools and affirmations to help them reclaim their narratives and advocate for their needs. And also the importance of building a supportive community around the survivor. How to create safe spaces for survivors, fostering connection and healing. We're talking today with a wonderful psychotherapist, Lesley Goth, PsyD. I know you're going to connect with her as soon as you hear her, as I did. She is a passionate advocate for survivors of trauma and sexual assault, dedicated to fostering healing and empowerment through her work. She's a best-selling author with her book, Unbroken, A Survivor's Journey After Sexual Assault. She shares her insights and experiences to illuminate the path toward healing. And you can learn more about Lesley and connect with her at denverfamilycounselingservices.com. And as a quick reminder, we want to help other dedicated listeners find our show. So if you could please leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, that will help us get our word out to wider audiences. So welcome to the show, Lesley Goth. How are you today?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. So, can you share some of the common emotional and psychological impacts that survivors of sexual assault experience and how these can affect their daily lives?
I think there's so much shame and self-blame that survivors often struggle with, kind of like replaying the event of what they've been through or multiple events of what they've been through over and over and over again, trying to find, answers to questions, to fill in all the blanks. Our brain needs to understand our experiences. And when things don't make sense, we're trying to get those answers. And so survivors usually can't find those answers, so they end up blaming themselves and
Hmm.
carrying the shame and the blame of what they've been through. I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have gone that night. I shouldn't have worn those clothes. I shouldn't have drank so much. And then it just creates a lot of anxiety and depression. Depression from the shame of what they've been through, but
Yeah.
anxiety of like, how do I ever kind of leave my house and ever feel safe again? Because if it happened at this point, it could happen again. So it just creates so much depression, anxiety that again comes from all that shame and self-blame, and it impacts every area of survivors' lives.
So, as a therapist, there must be ways you can help people. What specific tools and affirmations do you recommend for survivors to help them reclaim their own narratives and advocate for their own needs, which I'm sure have been violated during this violation?
It's multifaceted, but we have to work on the shame and the self-blame. We have to bring self-compassion into that process. We also have to work on how to create a sense of safety again, because trauma is a complete stripping away of people's sense of safety. Whatever the trauma is, could be a car accident, it could be sexual assault, whatever it is. And it's a complete, someone has come and just taken away any semblance of control.
Hmm.
So finding ways to rebuild that sense of control in people's own bodies and in their environment. That's really, really important. So we work on things in a multifaceted way. So like mindful meditation would be something that I strongly promote. Just learning how to connect to the body again, feel safe with the body. Affirmations might be, I can learn to forgive myself. I can learn to hold my perpetrator accountable. I can learn to let go of my shame, things like that. So there's those kinds of tools and techniques that people can do with a therapist or on their own. There's also the tool of EMDR therapy, which is my absolute favorite tool to help people actually process the trauma. It's a way for the brain to get that period at the end of the sentence of what they've experienced, get kind of the answers to the unanswerable questions, and to put the trauma, the event, in its proper place where now all their shame and self blame has been removed from their mind and body, and they understand the whole experience in a new way, where they don't have to carry any of their own yuck, is what I call it.
What's the therapy called? I didn't quite get that.
EMDR therapy, it stands
Oh,
for eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy.
right. And how does that work? You
That,
flip
so
a
yeah,
thing
there's an
back and
eye, you
forth.
create the eye movement, right? So because I do all full-time telehealth with my clients, I have this tool that I can send them. They have a little blue dot on their screen that I control, and they just follow the dot. A lot of clients, for a variety of reasons, they might get headaches, their eyes don't work that fantastic, don't like the blue dot, so they can just self-tap, and it creates that eye movement that is needed to access the trauma part of our brain, unlock it, and bring it to the front part of our brain, our frontal lobe, where we can then make sense of what we've been through.
Wow. So it really is getting control because I'm sure once you've been through a trauma, it's just anxiety and depression and, overwhelming. And
Overwhelming panic and hypervigilance
yeah,
and everything just feels out of control because at any moment something really bad could happen again,
right. Right. So
right?
the EMDR does what? I know you
It
explained it, but
helps.
if you
So
can
yeah, so it
re-explain it.
desensitizes. So let's say, I always ask clients, like we're targeting the trauma, and I'll ask them like, how upsetting or disturbing does it feel to you on a scale of 0 to 10? It's usually pretty up there, like a 10, right?
Yeah.
So the desensitization part of the processing, the DEMD, the desensitization is we are processing it. We're bringing that 10 down to a 0.
Uh-huh.
Slowly but surely, we're working through all the parts and pieces that feel yucky about what they've been through and get that down to a 0. Then the R, the reprocessing part of EMDR, is now we're also seeing it from a totally different lens. Instead of seeing it through shame and self-blame, now I'm seeing it through it wasn't my fault. It doesn't matter what I wore. It did not give this person permission to cross my boundaries.
Hmm.
I'm empowered to wear whatever I want. And they've now shifted the whole perspective of carrying all that shame to, oh, it wasn't my fault. I don't have to feel ashamed. This other person can be held accountable, whether it's a family member, or a stranger, someone they knew, things like that. And it just changes the narrative to a place where now it makes sense and I don't have to carry any of the trauma as mine.
Got it. You mentioned that you see people virtually. So
Yes.
can people see you from anywhere in the country? Do they have to be a
Yes.
certain state?
So I am licensed in Colorado. I'm based out of Denver and I'm licensed in Colorado, but I'm also a part of PsyPact. PsyPact is spelled PSYPACT. PsyPact was started with COVID, which allowed licensed clinical psychologists to practice across state lines
Hmm.
because there was such a need
Yes.
for therapists.
Yes.
So that has continued. And now most states, I can't remember out of all, I don't know what the total number is. Most states are participating in PsyPact. There's still a few that are not. Like California, surprisingly, is not a part of PsyPact, which I
Hmm.
don't understand, but
Hmm.
most states are. And so as long as that state is a part of PsyPact, then I can work across state lines and see them anywhere in the country.
Good. So let me just mention before we go on, if you do want to get in touch with Lesley, her website is denverfamilycounselingservices.com.
Correct. Yes.
And she's got a marvelous blog there that I recommend you take a look at because there are a lot of wonderful articles there. Lesley, you also have a book. Tell us about the book that you've written.
Well, since you
Oh,
happen
good.
to bring it up,
Okay, good.
my book is called Unbroken, A Survivor's Journey After Sexual Assault. And what happened was, interesting story about 2 years ago, I have an account on TikTok and I like to just be a resource for people on social media. So I did a video explaining what sexual assault is and feeling of shame and self-blame after sexual assault. And that video has gone viral. We're almost at 100,000 views now, 2 years later. And
Congratulations.
people were writing me questions. Well, is it sexual assault if it's this? What if I gave consent? What if I was drinking? Is it my fault? So I started to get all these questions from that one video. And
Hmm.
I always knew I had a book in me. And all this, it just came to me. I was having a discussion with my son, and we were just kind of like, brainstorming over dinner one night, like, what could I write a book about? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Each one of those questions could be a chapter in a book helping people heal and survive from sexual assault. And I really took each one. I'm telling you, I mean, they're fascinating. What if I knew the perpetrator? What if I did give consent? That's a big one. So I went through all the questions that I received in it. There's a chapter for everyone. There's also a chapter for loved ones of survivors and how to support their loved one. Okay. So I just wanted to offer hope, resources. Each chapter kind of explains my own personal experiences surviving sexual assault, my clients' experiences surviving sexual assault, and then there's affirmations and exercises that people can either work through on their own or bring to their therapist and work through with their therapist as just a resource for their healing.
Wonderful. So you just brought up an interesting question. What if somebody did give consent? Is that still, I mean, how is that still assault if they did give consent?
Because consent has to be a very enthusiastic yes. And if we're being coerced or manipulated into giving consent,
Mm,
that's not consent.
okay.
Okay. Also, if someone has been drinking, consent is null and void because if we're under any kind of influence, consent is not a thought out, thoughtful, cognizant, again, enthusiastic yes. If there's any kind of substance that's getting in the way of really kind of being aware and knowledgeable and able to give that, just really grounded, I know, like a very aware, grounded, I know what's happening here between these two people, and I'm consenting to interact and engage in this way. So alcohol, drugs interferes with the ability to be really aware and understanding the consequences of what we're doing.
Hmm.
So that's where people get very confused. Like I'd been drinking, I said yes, or I said kind of yes with my mouth, but no with my body. I was like, I was shut down, I was frozen, and I just kind of sat there and let it happen. I hear
Hmm.
that a lot. So
Wow.
I didn't say no. So that must mean I said yes,
Right. Got it.
right? But it has to be a real like, yes, I am in this and we are good to go.
Okay, good. Thank you for
Yes,
explaining that. In your
yes.
experience, what are some of the most significant barriers that survivors face when they're trying to reclaim their voice and how they can overcome these challenges?
I think sadly we still live in we live in a rape culture. And what that means is like we kind of suppress survivors. We tend not to believe survivors.
Hmm.
We tend to support perpetrators a lot and really create an environment that makes it very difficult for survivors to come forward and feel empowered to tell their stories. Survivors that do end up going to court and testifying against their perpetrator are often just raked across the coals with questions of their sexual history. Maybe they did give consent. The fact that they were drinking doesn't matter, but as you and I now know, it absolutely
Hmm.
matters. And they get really shamed. A lot of even just going and getting questioned by authorities, by the police. The victim will be asked horrific questions like, what were you wearing?
Hmm.
Why does that matter?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So I think the society that we're still in really holds survivors, victims back from coming forward and being able to be heard and get the justice that they need and that they deserve. Now, survivors that are in families where a family member has harmed them in this way, they're often not believed.
Hmm.
So that's another block and another obstacle where they're not believed, or again, more shame. well, you brought it, or they'll be blamed. Like, you brought it on. You shouldn't have been alone with Uncle Joe or something like that. Like, are you kidding me?
Hmm.
So I think it's the blame and the shame and the questions that survivors often have to face that really perpetuate the shame.
I'm surprised by what you're saying. I'm familiar with the rape culture that you describe, but I
Mhm.
thought that was like 20, 30 years ago. Is it still the same?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as recently as the P. Diddy case, as recently as people in government that shall not be named,
Hmm.
who have been found guilty and are living incredible lives. One of my chapters is, what if I see my perpetrator living their best life?
Hmm.
How do I deal with that?
Hmm.
I'm suffering, I'm in my trauma, and they're getting promotions and raises, getting elected to office. That's
Hmm.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really tough. So I think we're still seeing a lot of the perpetrators being supported and lifted up, and victims are still, you know, really suppressed and oppressed.
Speaking of that, could you discuss the importance of self-advocacy in the
Mm.
healing process and provide some examples of how survivors can effectively advocate for themselves, even if they didn't do so during their assault?
So I think, doing their own therapy and processing their trauma will empower them. First and foremost, like, really healing from what they've been through is so empowering, and that's such a powerful way to get one's voice back. Then
Hmm.
there's just so many resources online. There's rain.org, RAINN.org, Sapria. There's just so many. I've got a laundry list on my website of resources and links that people can look at to see ways that they can be in support groups, that they can volunteer and help other survivors, that they can really start to feel like, okay, I'm not a victim anymore. Maybe my situation turned out a certain way, but I can still help other survivors, or I can go, try to get certain bills passed, certain laws passed. There's ways that people can get involved and try to have a very powerful impact for our future. So there's just, you can even Google, how do I get, how can I advocate for myself as a sexual assault survivor, and just
Hmm.
see all the things that will come up. But my site has a lot of them there. Rain.org is a phenomenal organization that is also just has tons and tons and tons of resources for survivors.
And that's RAINN.org. Got
Yes.
it. Okay. And again, Leslie's website is denverfamilycounselingservices.com. There you can find her book. You can make
Yes.
an appointment with her. There's wonderful blog articles, which I highly recommend because I've
Thank
read
you.
them.
Thank
It's really a
you.
wonderful connection. Yes, a
Thank
wonderful
you.
collection, excuse me.
Yes. And each one of those blogs has a ton of resources at the end of them as well, so that people can continue to do their own research and see what's right for them.
So, friends and family.
Yes.
How can friends and family be support? Are friends and family guilty sometimes of being part of this culture of blame and you
Yeah.
shouldn't have been there, you shouldn't have done that? I mean, how can friends and family be most supportive of a survivor?
What I say first is believe them. The stat of survivors or people coming forward and lying is like only 2%. I mean,
Really?
it's really low.
Hmm.
People who are sharing that this has happened to them, they're not lying.
Hmm.
So first and foremost, they need to be believed. Okay. Secondly, they don't need to be asked a bunch of questions like, well, what time of night was it? What were you wearing? Were you drinking? I told you not to go out with those people. Why were you with those people? That kind of thing. So they don't need a lot of questions. They need support. They need to know that you're there, that they need to be asked, what can I do to support you? Do you need help finding a therapist? Do you need me to go on walks with you? Do you need me to help you find tools of safety so that if you have to walk from point A to point B because you work the night shift or something and you're not safe walking to your, do you need me to go with you so that you're always safe? Something like that. What do you need? How can I support you?
Got it.
That's what family members and loved ones can do. Believe, not ask a lot of questions like why, but how. How can
Hmm.
I support you?
Right.
What are you needing? And the survivor may not know. The other thing they don't need is to be told what to do. You need to go to the authorities. You need to get into therapy. You need to, blah, 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 right? The partners and family members are going to probably feel very helpless because their loved one is hurting
Yeah.
and they're going to want to jump into fix it mode. So it's
Okay.
really important not to jump into fix it mode.
Now tell me why, because I would think that if somebody close to me had been assaulted, I'd want them to go to the authorities. I'd want them not to hold back. I'd want them to
Of
get
course.
help. Why shouldn't I be doing that?
Because they're not, maybe not ready. Their boundaries have already been crossed.
Hmm.
They don't need to be told what to do and then shamed because they're not doing those things.
Hmm.
They
Got it.
need to be empowered to know, like, if I'm going to go to the authorities, it's because I am ready to go to the authorities. Because remember what I said earlier, going to the authorities can be very traumatizing also.
Yes. Right.
They might be
Wow.
asked all those same shaming questions and then told, well, we don't have a case because you were drinking or because, you know, you don't really remember who it was. I see a
Hmm.
lot of clients who've been roofied, they don't have the memory. And well, we can't do anything about that. Sorry. You were drinking and you got drugged and nothing we can do. That's re-traumatizing all over again. So
Right.
for a survivor to choose to go to the authorities, they have to know what the risks and benefits are and that they're going to get that support and not be told to do something that could actually be 10 times traumatizing.
Hmm. How long does recovery take? Is there an average time? Does it
Mhm.
vary? Is it years? I mean, do people
It's such a good
recover?
question. Yeah, and I get that question all the time, but it really takes as long as it's going to take because also, is this just a one-time event that's happened to you, or have there been other sexual assaults or other traumas, like boundary crossing traumas in your life that are now also intensifying what you've just been through? So, like one of my clients is a recent survivor of a date rape where she was roofied, but it's bringing up childhood sexual assault that she went through as a little
Oh,
girl.
wow. What's
So
roofied? You've used that term.
roofied
What
is
is
when you're drugged,
I
when
see.
a certain substance that you cannot taste in your drink has been put in your drink, and it causes you to, like, even just after one drink, feel completely drunk. You black out. Your memory is very spotted at best, and there's a lot of confusion. There's just a real loss of control over one's body, inability to make any kind of choices or decisions, completely impossible to give consent, and high probability that you are being taken advantage of and hurt in a very, very bad way.
Is there a period of time by which a survivor should get help? I mean, what if they
The
just want to
sooner, the
hold this?
better. Yeah, the sooner, the better, because the longer people wait, the more that trauma gets implanted in the trauma brain.
Hmm.
And so the sooner something happens that you can actually start working through it, the better the easier it will be to kind of work through it. But again, that also depends on what is that person's previous trauma.
Right. Right.
That
But
can kind
again,
of
if you're a friend
complicate
or
it.
family, even though they should get help sooner, it's not to go into fix it mode. It's to help empower them and see how you can help and support them. They have to come to the decision.
They have to be ready to do the work because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are going to have to relive it.
Yeah. Is there a way that friends and family can help provide some kind of self-advocacy or develop that in the person?
Yeah, just to kind of keep reminding the person that they're there to go at that the survivor's pace. I'm here. I will be right by your side for whatever you need. And so when you're ready to take a step A, B, C, or D, you let me know how I can help you, but I will wait for your lead,
Okay.
right?
Good.
Yes.
Great. Good. It's so nice to know that you can see people throughout the country if they need help.
I know. I feel very privileged and lucky to be able to do that. I really appreciate PsyPact and what's been created, and that more states are getting on board, because sometimes it's hard to find people in your own community or your own state. So being able to like spread the net wider is great. It's helpful. It helps providers, be able to reach more clients, but it
Hmm.
really helps the client have more access to more professionals that really specialize in what they're needing.
Good. So we
Yeah.
come to the part of the interview where I ask, what question haven't I asked yet? Or what message would you like to leave people with?
The message that I always love to leave people with is a message of encouragement and hope, that so many survivors feel broken. And that's why I named my book Unbroken, because you feel broken, you feel like you are forever damaged. And I just want to encourage people and give them hope that they're not. That whatever the trauma is, whether it's sexual assault or any type of trauma that you've been through, that you can heal. You can do the work, you can get the support, and you can heal. It is absolutely possible that this does not have to be the story of your life. It's a part of your life, and it's going to be part of what makes you you, but it does not have to define you. You don't have to stay feeling broken. So
Good.
that's the message I always want to leave with people.
Good. Lesley, it's been wonderful speaking with you. I could just feel amazing energy from you and how much
Yeah.
supportive you must be
Yeah.
when you're working with clients.
Thank you,
It's
Jonathan.
wonderful energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Good, good, good. So we've been talking with Lesley Goth, PsyD. She's a passionate advocate for survivors of trauma and sexual assault, dedicated to fostering healing and empowerment through her work. She's got a background in trauma, including PTSD, eating disorders, as well as anxiety and depression. She's spent over 21 years supporting individuals on their journey to recovery, and she's a best-selling author of the book Unbroken, A Survivor's Journey After Sexual Assault. Thanks for being with us again today, Lesley.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Good. And you can visit her again at denverfamilycounselingservices.com. We want to keep bringing you the stories and insights you find valuable. Help us out, please, by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to us. It helps other dedicated listeners like you discover the show. Thanks for being with us. Remember, as we say at the end of every show, go to health. God bless. We'll see you again. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marx in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at GoToHealthMedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with Go to Health.